Hi, I'm Alex Heath. I'm the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at the RAC. I'm really pleased to be part of Assurant's Insight event in 2020.
I'm Sophie Wilson. I'm the Head of Package Bank Account and Transformation at Lloyds Banking Group, and it's great to be here today to take part in today's event.
My name's Darren Morris. I'm the CFO for Toyota Great Britain. We represent both Lexus and Toyota as a national sales and marketing company here in the UK. And we're effectively bringing, I guess, both brands to market through a franchise retailer network of around about 250 sort of retail partners.
Hi, I'm Chris Woolnough. I'm the European Commercial and Strategy Director at Assurant. I'm delighted to be here as part of this panel.
So as a company, the RAC adapted very quickly when lockdown kicked in. So one of the first things was adopting Microsoft Teams, which has rapidly become completely BAU and probably, adopted more quickly than any other technology that I can think of within the organisation, to the point now where it's completely second nature. We've had, through this period, some of our highest ever colleague engagement scores. I think a lot of that was to do with how we reacted, how flexible we've been, but also I think a lot of the feedback was around the level and improvement in communication. So I have daily calls with my team. I have twice weekly calls with my broader marketing team and customer team across the division, and it's really helped. And we've seen that in feedback. And ultimately, at the heart of the RAC, we are a people company, and I think clearly there are huge benefits of digitalisation, but we can't have those without people being at the forefront of what we do, both the way we manage our teams, but also in terms of our customers. And then on a personal level, I think part of the question was how has it impacted you personally. I'd say my probably the area of digitalisation that I've picked up most on has been using my Strava fitness app, because I think coming into lockdown, I think it was pretty clear in my head I was either going to come out of it considerably worse off from a health perspective, or actually I'd have some time to do things that I didn't normally get to do. So I've become a bit slightly obsessed with Strava, but I think it's certainly helped the exercise from a mental well-being perspective as much as anything else.
I'd really think about the last period impacted by coronavirus and how our customers have actually adopted digital in a way that we could not have expected. We've seen 4% more users of our digital banking in Lloyds Banking Group just during the period of coronavirus, which means we've got over 17 million digital users today, which is brilliant. And so one of the things that we've been really, adapting to as a company is that greater need and demand from our customers as well. And particularly during coronavirus, how can we bring more online that we've not had before? So we've been doing things like bringing journeys on, like check scanning. So you can scan your checks rather than going into branch. And we've increased the limit up to which you can do that, which means that 80% more of our customers have been able to do that, which is fantastic. We've also been working with our third parties like Assurant to bring more digital capability to our journeys. And we've been working with third parties like We Are Digital to help our more elderly customers feel confident and comfortable using online banking as well. And that's only the part, that customers see at the front end. We've also been driving digitalisation in the back end and using robotics a lot to meet the demand we've seen from coronavirus. So we've been in demand to provide additional support for our customers at this time, which is all part of our strategy of helping Britain at this time recover. And we've been really pleased to be able to do that with our bounce back loans. But what's been even better is we've been able to keep up with that demand, because we did over 98% using robotics, which is fantastic. So for us as a company, how we've adapted is definitely keeping up with our customer demand and really making the most during coronavirus of getting as much online as possible.
Ironically, in mid-2019, here in Toyota, we initiated a project around the digital workplace. And the whole point of this was to try and modernise the working environment, to recognise that we had a lot more cross-collaboration across traditional functions. And we recognised that the traditional way of working didn't necessarily facilitate that. What we found in early 2020, of course, as we accelerated into the crisis in March, is that actually this became a game changer in many ways, because what we'd established in terms of our cross-functional working, our collaboration, and a lot of it was around Microsoft Office 365, around particularly Microsoft Teams as a European standard. We brought those into play at a kind of office, but sort of, albeit with some home working, but actually the move into lockdown really accelerated that change. We really transitioned with a great degree of fluidity that I didn't expect, if I'm being honest with you, to be so straightforward. And in fact, many companies I've spoken to have also been pleasantly surprised. And I think it's the resilience of the platforms that we were using that really enabled us, I guess, to do that. But as well as Microsoft, we obviously had things like SharePoint, and we've created a paperless environment prior to lockdown that really has served us well during this period of home working. In terms of myself personally, I think, I'll be fairly frank, up until the fact that we worked in the office, I was happy strategically to drive this and to support it and to give the technology and the platforms to make people work in a different way. However, I think since lockdown, where we've all moved into this space and are beginning to use the tools, particularly Microsoft Teams, and using that not just as a video link, but also as a project communication tool, I do think this has moved me forward in a way that I wouldn't have anticipated.
So some phenomenal examples then from three of the biggest companies in the UK and three of our most important clients is Assurant. I think some of the key takeaways from me, both Alex and Darren mentioned Microsoft Teams and the collaboration capability. Collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams have been invaluable during the coronavirus crisis. Within Assurant, we have been really focusing on digital. So we've invested in digital for a significant period of time. And what we've seen this year with some of our key clients is almost a 50% shift, a 50% customer shift to digital channels, as opposed to typically a telephony-based journey. And one simple strategy has evolved out of that. That strategy is that our mission is to help customers do what they want, when they want, how they want. One of the reasons that I'm so proud of that is we really benefited from it during COVID. As an organization, we were very early to move on COVID, and we were able to move without missing a beat. Our entire European organization, to the majority, moved to home working within 2 weeks of the third week of March. And we've seen no impact on SLAs. We've been able to maintain critical relationships with customers, many of whom are your customers. And we've been able to do that during the unprecedented times, a lotly because of the investments we've made in digital. We've also launched new products. So right before COVID started, we launched a range of concierge products. Some we already had in the market, but we looked to expand upon them. And so we have a legal product, a HR product, an accountancy product, and a technical support product. And for a small and medium-sized business, those are fantastic propositions that are literally like having a CFO, a HR director, a CIO, and a legal counsel sat next to you. You get access to the portals with various documents, you get a two-way messaging solution, and you get access to the likes of a lawyer at the simple touch of a button. When I think about my team, much like Alex and Darren talked about, collaboration tools have been key. Zoom has been our best friend. And I think many of us are probably having more face-to-face engagements via Zoom than we were back in February, for example. I'm personally running a bit low on pub quizzes, but we're kind of doing what we can to maintain that healthy level of dialogue amongst all of us. I think finally, again, Alex, I think it was that talked about Strava. On a personal level, Peloton has been my kind of savior from a digital perspective through COVID, utilizing data, gamification with other Assurant colleagues who are also on the bike and various people across the world. So that's certainly got me through. I probably need to do a bit more of it, but it's certainly been a good godsend for me.
So I'd probably say in terms of benefits, it would be around the fact that it's really what customers are telling us they want. So, we know we need to do more online, and we're really excited to provide more services for our customers online as well at Lloyds Banking Group. I think one of the benefits in terms of our relationship with our customers online provides is you get really regular engagement and interaction. You know, we have over 11 million daily logons onto our internet banking. That's incredible. So that means that we can interact with our customers every single time they log on and help them with their needs. So for us, that's a massive benefit. For our customers, it offers that greater engagement and also availability of information to them as well.
I think in terms of staff, there's two ways of looking at it, I suppose. In a normal environment, it's much more collaborative. It enables people to interact physically as well as digitally, because we've got these innovation open spaces and so on and so on. It's taken a lot of printing out, a lot of the paperless side of it. So, from an eco perspective, which is important for our brand, certainly with our hybrid credentials, has been a big plus. But I guess from a customer point of view, there are some big changes here, because what we have done, and we've had to launch a new generation Yaris. So for the first time with that product, we'll have augmented reality in the showroom. So rather than having all of the various options around accessorization and different grades, we can actually show through the augmented reality tool what kind of car, sort of construction you would wish for in a way that is beyond belief. But equally for the customer, ultimately for those of which there are now many, they can do their research, they can do their kind of, a lot of the purchase funnel at home in a way that they would do for any product in any sector. And it's important that we're not competing against Volkswagen's journey or against, one of the disruptors who are in this space. The important thing is that if you go on to John Lewis or if you go on to another retail environment, your experience with us in researching, potentially through the purchase, is consistent and to a degree not out of bed with the quality and the experience you're getting in the broader picture.
I think it's been a huge benefit, particularly in the last year or so, around driving innovation thinking. So, having that digital first mentality has led to us, delivering new products, new propositions, new service experience, new customer experience that that we just didn't do before. And the great thing, I think, from a marketeer's perspective, is that it really brings everything together. So, we have a way of integrating all of our marketing activity. The data, the insight, the analytics that we get from that leads to much better measurability, and really gives us the chance to kind of iterate and change what we're doing almost on a daily, weekly basis to optimize to get the best results.
In terms of pitfalls, I think one of the things we think about is how do we help customers with more complex queries. So digital is really good, but if you have to answer kind of a more complicated query or you need a follow-up, it's not always the most obvious platform to use. So something we've been really tackling with is how do we help customers with those more complex queries in an increasingly digital world. And we've been really thinking about in our app, especially how we help with this. And so we've launched a search function. So as a customer now, you can get your app, type in your question, and we'll try and route you to the right part, which we think is really helpful for our customers to navigate. Not only our app, but also some of our online content where we've been really working to help customers get to the answer to their question. We've launched new triage tools. We'll all be very aware of the traveller disruption. I know I am in packaged bank accounts, and it's a big impact for our customers. So we've launched an online digital tool which helps you as a customer navigate through your options at this time. And so we want to help you find that kind of content because we want to help. So that's one of the ways we're thinking about it. We've also thought about it in terms of messaging services in app as well to help kind of, I guess, mitigate that pitfall. But I think that's a real one that we're still thinking about. How do we help with the more complex queries in a digital world?
I think what I have seen, and certainly one of the pitfalls, is setting out a grand vision, a huge transformation plan. I think there is transformation that happens every day, but I think having sort of 3 to 5 year programs with huge budgets attached, I think really ties you up as an organisation. I think ultimately as things change, those visions can change, and you kind of almost go nowhere. So I think for us at the RAC, it's definitely about picking the right battles, picking the areas that we think are going to be winners, and then focusing on delivering those and delivering them really well before we move on to something else.
I think the difficulty in terms of more crisis based is blurring home time and work time, because you can be always on, which for maybe the more administrative members of staff has been a bit difficult. But probably the biggest difficulty, and this is maybe more the crisis than the digital workplace, is that we've lost that informality, corridor conversations and, you know, our coffee bar conversations. And that part of it has been a big gap for me and most of my, you know, my general managers and my reports. They feel that they've lost that touch point and that human part. So I think there's a middle ground between personal interaction and digital interaction from a staff point of view. I think the other key point here, and it's a Japanese phrase which is critical, it's called ichigo ichi-e, which is an unusual phrase, but clearly what it means is, and this is true for all businesses, you can only make a first impression once. And if that first impression is not right, it ruins that customer journey. So I think there's, you know, as you well know, there's pros and cons. The important part is not to lose sight of what is ultimately the most important part of our business, and that's the individual customer.
So another set of fantastic pieces of insight about benefits and pitfalls of a digitized business. I thought also it was great to hear Darren talk about some of the eco benefits of the paperless environment that they've created, but also to hear some of the pitfalls, certainly pitfalls I recognized, which is the blurring of the home time and the work time. Yeah, that's something I think we'd all probably echo and share, and certainly has been a discussion amongst me and my team. I also think it was a great piece to hear that digital levels the customer experience expectation. So the customer who comes to you, either your app or your website, has probably just been somewhere else, and that somewhere else could be a world leader like Amazon, it could be a John Lewis, it could be Spotify, it could be iTunes. There are many places that customer could come from, and yet their customer expectation will not lower. And so one of the pitfalls is, you know, thinking you only have to be as good as your other competitors. The customer experience benchmark is set very high in a digital environment. I'm not going to try and quote Japanese, but the fact that you only get to make that first impression once was a fantastic piece of insight. I think especially true in digital. I think you know, we all move quickly between digital sites. That first impression is critical. So that was a great piece of insight. For Assurant, what we've tried to do, well, we've tried to adopt Agile on an enterprise-wide scale. So one of the things we focused on is to try to utilize the time to benefit from having a continual evolving backlog of iterative deliveries. It means we can deliver more. It means we can do more without the traditional overheads of waterfall, and really is adopting a digital way of working. The key benefits I've seen are exactly Sophie's point. Customers are digital. So if we don't adapt, if we don't align to how they want to buy, how they want to manage, how they want to interact with companies, we'll be left behind. And it's not an investment decision, it's table stakes, which is why we're investing significantly. It's not about a benefits case, it's about hygiene factors. Digital and the customer experience in digital is vital for any business to succeed today.
I would say we use it twofold. The first is around the choice and how you choose to interact with us. So we use digital to mean that we can help you choose digital, if that's what you want to do. But we also use it to make sure if you choose to talk to one of our colleagues that we're able to free them up for those more complex questions, or because you want to talk to one of our colleagues for their opinion and help. So we spend a bit of time moving as much as we can out of the way so that they can spend the time on things that matter the most. And during coronavirus, you know, we were able to offer a dedicated line and have over 500,000 calls from NHS workers and our more elderly customers, because we were able to offer so many services in digital, and that was really important to us. So I think that's a good example of how we think about choice for a digital channel. I think personalisation, like many companies, that is a lot around how we can help you through the insight it generates. So I think a really interesting example of this is how we use push notifications in our mobile app. So now if your direct debit changes, our push notification updates to say, oh, your direct debit looks like it's changed this month, just so you know. That's a really great way we can share the insight we have as a bank with our customers in a way that makes it really easy for you to engage with. It's personal to you, and we know you want to hear about it because you've chosen to. So I think for me, that's a kind of all about what we want to do with insight and helping make the experience more personal for you.
So personalisation is a big theme for us at the moment. You know, we hold a huge amount of data on our customers, and we have high engagement levels from our customers. So it's the perfect combination for us to be able to provide really personalised customer experiences and communications to our customers. And the amount of data that we've got on people's vehicles, on their vehicle faults, on their personal details, with the right permissions, we can create some really compelling and powerful marketing activity. And there's a double benefit for us because we are seeing that translate into reduced levels of churn, and as I said, higher sales through our web journey. Equally, the more engagement we get, the more data then comes back into our marketing system. We're also looking at personalisation from a proposition perspective, using things like telematics data and customer data to create properly personalised one-to-one experiences, through pricing, through proposition development, and through our communications. And it's really, it's really relevant for people now. We're seeing huge changes in customer behaviour. We're seeing much less commuting during the week, and we're seeing a lot more weekend travelling, particularly over the summer. Some of the kind of trends around staycation and people staying in the UK, clearly, there's restrictions there. So there's a real opportunity with changing customer needs, changing customer behaviours, for us to innovate and use some personalisation and data within our business to really cut through with our customers.
Well, we've got to be careful here because there is a danger that you use the data. I began in a previous question about building a data lake around analytics and insight. You've got to be careful that the seesaw isn't lopsided too much towards your commercial interests to the detriment of the customer. Now, this is extremely true for Lexus, and another Japanese word, I'll apologize, but Lexus is founded upon something called omotenashi. And omotenashi is a cultural expression. It's not necessarily just Japanese, it's very Asian, is that you should treat everybody as though they're a guest in your own home. And the danger here is that by bringing in a lot of modern technology to take away that personalization can be detrimental to that loyalty and that long-standing relationship. But what we do now is that we use that data, particularly as we begin to build it up, to understand not just the purchasing propensity, but the needs and what they're looking for. And this is more important because rather than have a blanket approach, particularly to contacting and almost a scattergun approach, now we only contact really based upon their behaviors and preferences and the timing of where they are in their kind of product ownership. So it's a much more targeted, it's a less invasive, and it's a much more respectful way of engaging with the customers.
In terms of the responses we just heard, I thought there were some great examples on how to enable personalization and choice within the businesses that the three team represent. Digitization allows you to personalize the customer journeys and marketing, which drives engagement. And Alex talked about how that turns into churn reduction, improved retention, which is ultimately all going to benefit the bottom line. A great point I think Darren made is about the value exchange on data. It can't all be about commercial benefit. I think especially post-GDPR and PSD2, customers rightly have a far greater control of their own personal data than they've ever had in history. And so how we use that data, particularly where it appears to be for a company's commercial advantage, has to be done with a fair value exchange to the customer. They have to get something back for that. At Assurant, one of the most prominent ways we deliver on digital personalization is through our claims journey experience. So when you think about our mobile phones and the insurance we offer on mobile phones, this device that you have in your hand is the lifeblood to you. If it's broken, if it's lost, if it's stolen, it's a significant impact on your life, and we recognize that. So during the claim experience, we provide personalized messaging to give updates in real time of the claim. They're either SMS or email, but we're moving towards offering WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger as an example in the future. We can offer a personalized set of options on how you get your device back quickly. So an example being, we have an AI-driven tool that basically offers the customer a guaranteed replacement device inside 4 hours. And that's something we guarantee. So if you as a client tell us through data that one of your customers is incredibly high value or vulnerable, or any other metric that you choose to pick, we can make sure that that customer gets their phone back with them within 4 hours of them registering a claim with us, which is fantastic. It's market leading. Alternatively, if we know that a customer lives or works really close to a repair store, then we'll tell them that one easy option for them is just to go to that local store rather than having to send their device off or anything like that. If we recognize they live remotely, we would suggest either a we come to you or send your device to us option. Our aim is to give the customer a number of options, but personalized based upon what we know about them. So we don't want to overawe them with a lot of different options where they have to do the work.
Candidly, I think it's hard to know right now, right? Like, we talk about kind of crystal ball gazing because the acceleration of digital has been phenomenal this year. But some of the things we're excited about, and I, want to think more about it going forwards, would be around the use of voice interaction. We know that voice interaction is actually outstripping the purchase of tablets. So what does that mean? Another thing we're really interested in is around connectivity. So we spend a lot more time at home right now than ever before. How do we think about how connected you are in your home using technology? And what does that mean for the digital evolution as well? And I think the final thing I reflect on as well is, for us, especially in Lloyds Banking Group, is how can we achieve more end-to-end journeys faster for customers in the digital journey that we're on?
We are always looking at emerging technologies. We have a strong voice at a European level. And I think probably what we need to do is not be scared to try these, and some of them will fail, some won't. We've got quite a good culture of having pilots and putting them in market with some of our retailers who are able to try this in a real time environment. And what we're looking here is really customer facing initiatives which improve not just the digital experience, but really the customer journey as one. So we are exploring, we're looking, and I think the key here is not be scared to fail. The one thing we're not doing is standing still, because as I said in an earlier comment, this industry is no longer about the manufacturers. There is a lot of people coming in who are not OEMs, who see an opportunity and see new channels to market. And I think that is the big difference now. There are good ideas coming from all angles. And I think by the time we get to 2025, this sector will be a very different automotive sector to what it was, say, in 2015, when it was still very traditional. But I guess in the bigger picture, that replicates what's happening in the retail space as a whole. So, all in, there are no surprises. One thing's for sure, whether it's connectivity and technology on the car, or being able to compete, I guess, with disruptors and against our competitors, we will make sure that to support, I guess, the product evolution, we are not left behind in terms of channels to market and the digital journey that requires.
I think it's really hard to say for sure. My opinion is it will probably vary quite a lot by sector. There's been a huge amount of talk around digital disruption, across most industries, and how things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, and even right the way through to things like autonomous vehicles, which ultimately at the heart of it, digitalisation will be powering that. But I think for us at the ROC, the fact is people still need help. People still drive those cars. There are still faults that will happen regardless of those technologies. For us, the preparation is having that digital capability, having the platforms, making sure our customers are engaged with us, making that integral to what we do and the services that we offer. And that will give us that platform to be able to continue to engage with people and bring in new services and flex to any threats that come down the line.
So firstly, let me say thank you to Alex, to Darren and to Sophie. I thought there were some incredible insights into how 3 of the largest companies in the UK have embraced digital this year, especially a year which has seen such tumultuous change as a result of COVID-19. Again, some great answers in terms of where we see the future of digitization in business and how we're preparing for it. I thought Alex and Sophie probably nailed it, both of them saying it's hard to say. It'll probably vary by sector. I don't think anybody could dispute that. I think there were some areas that were particularly pertinent. Machine learning, the move to automated vehicles is something we're all seeing and hearing about, and they'll have big impacts. But the principles of business will remain. We're still here to look after our customers. To Darren's point, those vehicles will still break. We'll still have to fix them. They'll still be on a renewal cycle. And actually, with the continuous data-driven investments in digital, we'll have better access to all of that information. And in particular, I really liked what Darren said around, a key part of the future being more pilots, particularly in customer-facing initiatives, and us not being scared to fail. I think that's really, really important. So Assurant, the future and analysing trends is a critical part of what we do. We run innovation days with key clients. I'm sure many people listening and watching have been in those events. And what we've done recently, we've identified 40 different trends, many of which are led or are influenced by digitalisation. So for example, one key trend we've identified from customer research is that customers are increasingly looking for brands to do the legwork. They don't want to have to go around doing all the work, especially in areas like providing information to a company that the company already has. They expect those companies to do that work and use digital technology to do that. As was mentioned in the last session, data and AI-driven customer experiences are going to be the new norm. We're going to see AI underpinning everything that we do, particularly when we think about things like personal AI assistants. So that Alexa who sits in the corner is going to become increasingly prominent in your life, may replace your PA in years to come, may be able to just book your entire holiday for you, but may also be proactive in warning you about things that are happening in the day, or calendar clashes, travel clashes, and multitude of other things. We also think about messaging. So messaging as a platform we think is going to be a key part of the future. As customers inevitably don't use email, SMS will disappear, and the customers will be looking at a singular messaging platform in terms of how they engage with brands in real time. It could be WhatsApp, it could be Facebook Messenger, it could be a variety of other brands as we've seen in our Asian markets. We're also starting to see it, and Darren kind of touched upon it, but technology players attempting to disrupt the ecosystem. We're seeing that more and more as non-traditional organizations are entering many of the ecosystems that we all inhabit. Finally, the rollout of 5G will be transformational. 5G is going to really transform the interconnectivity of data, supported by areas like quantum computing. The ability for devices to talk to each other on a far faster scale with greater data intensity is going to be critical. As I walk down the street in the future and devices are talking to each other, or my car is talking to other cars as I navigate along the motorway. Those are the kind of key big things that we see. But how we prepare for the future in Assurant is to constantly scan the market. We have a global footprint. We can spot what's happening quickly. We share that with clients, and we work in partnership on how we respond together. For example, it's not hard to spot the rise in electric vehicles, but we identified at the start of this year that a warranty for these vehicles is very different to those with a combustion engine. That's why we launched the first electric vehicle specific warranty earlier this year, EV1. And you'll see launches from us with the electric vehicle through the rest of 2020, with clients offering this to customers who buy an electric vehicle. These trends and insight innovation workshops are of interest, and please get in touch. We love spending time with the clients or potential clients to work through innovation, to work through trends, and to come up with shared responses.